again, and welcome to another edition of Sudson Country Video. Hi, I'm Herb Sudson. On tonight's show, I have a special guest. His name is Mr. Lee Greenwood. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks. I feel like we're on a country sportsman here.
You what?
I feel like we're on a country sportsman. You got the hat on.
Baseball cap to go with it.
That's great.
I use it as a billboard.
We'll get out there and we'll hook a few.
I'm talking to Lee Greenwood. 8 years and 11 albums later. True?
Yeah, it feels like it was a very short period of time.
8 years flew by?
Yeah.
Since you went into the music business full time?
Well, I was always in the music business full time. Nobody knew about it.
Okay, but 8 years since they found out about Lee Greenwood.
Yeah.
Let's talk about If For Only One Night, your latest album.
Okay.
The music, the LP shows off your musical intensity more so than earlier albums?
No, I don't think so. You know, it's a good album. It was the second produced by James Stroud, who is a musician, a very fine musician, by the way, a drummer. And I felt that that would be a good ingredient as a producer, to know exactly what I need as a musician. And I think we achieved that. I wanted more rhythm in my songs. I wanted something that had more of a tempo, more of a beat. That may be not so country, but it's certainly competitive in today's big cities when you talk about the music that's being played in big cities.
Okay. What did the album focus on, basically? Was there
good music.
No,
I mean, other than that.
Mood music?
No.
No. Was
its only focus was to make an album with great dignity.
Was it focusing toward a certain type of audience?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We tried to make the best music we could within the framework of my own career, rather than being than falling in line with the Nashville artists who are making very traditional country music, but at the same time without going too far and making a contemporary sound that I don't think would have been acceptable within the country framework.
You were basically known for ballads, weren't you? Sort of.
Well, that may be your perception. You know, in as much as I think we had 5 of our hits that were all up-tempo songs. Reasonably, we don't make the Hank Williams type of up-tempo driving type of song yet. That's not my fault. I'd love to have those kind of hits. But with the emergence of our first ballad, It Turns Me Inside Out, following several others immediately, the perception of the audience was that that's what you do best and that's what they want from you best. Oftentimes that can happen to an actor as well as a singer. You're
sort of caught up with what you're doing. They accepted you for that type of music and you're playing that kind of music, giving them more than what they want?
Well, I only do that when it's necessary that we have a hit. I try to make every song a hit, but I try to give a more well-rounded view of what I do instrumentally and musically, so that I figure I'm utilizing the best of my talents.
This album, If For Only One Night, it captures the magic of Lee Greenwood more so. It has the album, the magic is more with Lee Greenwood than the music, or how did you go around picking songs for this, you know, for the album?
Well, I've never been disappointed in any of my albums. Only one, maybe This Is My Country, and that was the previous album. The reason I say that might not have been a success is because it was a mature album. My mother loved it, and all of her friends, and I thought it was a good album, but most of its songs were on a more mature level than your average record buyer who is still controlling the market around 15 years old to 30, let's say. But If Only For One Night was an album that had more of a mature musical approach, but a very contemporary approach. And with our first 2 singles, which didn't do all that well in the musical charts, we were just a little surprised that the album didn't do as well as we had hoped.
You wrote the song Home to Alaska is on this album. What was in your mind when you wrote that song?
Cold.
I saw the video. Well, I'll tell you, it was cold.
You know, as a matter of fact, I wrote Home to Alaska while we were in the Philippine Islands. And there's a little story there, just to make it really brief for you. We toured with the Pacific Air Forces, the United States Air Force in the South Pacific, in November of 1988. It was the longest tour we've ever gone for the military. We're gone 30 days. And for 2 weeks we were transported by the West Virginia Air National Guard. A great bunch of guys, and they have a song called Country Road that John Denver wrote, and it's very successful. And of course we played it for them at their request every night that they were on the tour with us. It got to be such a favorite with the audience. We continued to play it for weeks after that, and now with all military shows we do it just instinctively. But when the Alaska Air Guard came out and joined us in Okinawa, and we took us onto the Philippine Islands and then on to Hawaii for the remainder of our shows, they didn't really have a song, at least not one that was extremely popular nor current. And I felt kind of bad for them, so I wrote them Home to Alaska while we were in the Philippines. And I finished it one night just before our performance there at Clark Air Force Base. And the dedication on the back of the album is to the Air National Guard from Alaska.
Let's go back a few years in your historical life. How about you ever hear the Moonbeams and the Apollos?
Yeah, those were early musical groups, and they were successful as far as I was concerned. The Moonbeams was my first. It was a high school band where we sit down, and I have a picture. I wish I could have brought the picture, could have showed it to you on a clip. But my sister was playing piano in those days. I think I was 14. When I left high school at 17, I had my own band called the Apollos that we went on the road with, and I left the day that I graduated high school. I went to Nevada and played in the casinos there for almost 20 years. Upper State Nevada, which is quite cold, and then Las Vegas, which is the hot spot. Okay,
and you stayed in the Greenfield jungle. There's a term I read that you used for the cover of the casinos.
Well, that was in response to a book that was written about the town.
Oh, was it? I didn't.
The Greenfield jungle is what it was called.
Okay, I thought it was a term you had used. You were a blackjack dealer when you played the casinos?
I dealt all the games, yeah.
During the day, and you sang at night?
Actually, I did for 4 years. I had played all the time. I never really retired from singing or playing or writing. But the dealing job gave me a chance to gather some income in together, which I had been behind the 8 ball for some years because I went to Los Angeles and tried to make records and failed miserably. And so while I was dealing cards, I really could get a perspective of a different kind of life. And I've done a lot of different things. But it was interesting that I kept hearing the reflective sounds from each career that were the same. You know, people who were dealing cards with me would say, you know, I hate this, I wish I could get out of this. And the musicians who I was working with wished that they could have success, and they didn't want to do what they were doing. So it was kind of interesting. Everybody was dissatisfied with their job, and I had the best of both worlds. I was making more money and didn't care.
You dealt and you sang at night. In 1978, you made a break from the Greenfield jungles and decided to go into Nashville and do some music.
Well, that's not exact. I wouldn't want to put it that way because I don't want to give the people the appearance that the Nashville community, the musical community in Nashville, is any different than the musical community in Nevada or California or anywhere else. I was moving my life from one state to another, and I was taking my music to the people.
Right.
And I like that phrase because the Nevada casinos, like Atlantic City, are places where the people come to you.
That's
and
true.
You're employed to play your music, and they come to you. So you can get stagnant, you can get stale. And by the same token, you don't have any national exposure. Those places are isolated from the public. And when they come to you, they're not really interested in how well you play. They just want to have a little background music and go back to the tables. So it can be quite defeating and very frustrating. In 1978, I had met a guy in Upper State Nevada who was touring with Mel Tillis, and they played the casino at the Nugget. His name was Larry McFadden. He invited me as a publisher to come to Nashville and play some of my music in a studio and see what we could do about pitching songs around Nashville to other artists. We did that and accomplished it very well. But I had explained to them that if I was going to do any writing for his company, that I had to have an artist contract or I wasn't moving.
Right. And
much to their chagrin, because they wanted me only as a writer, they shopped me as a singer. And after 2.5 years, Jerry Crutchfield, the producer, finally did say, I'll take Leon as an artist and we'll cross-collateralize his writings with our publishing company, MCM Music. And that's how the contract came about.
And your first song was It Turns Me Inside Out?
Written by Jerry's brother, Jan Crutchfield, and it was a magic ballad. It struggled up the charts, was a little bit awkward, and it had almost failed 2 or 3 times after many other artists had looked at the song and maybe recording it themselves. But it's very hard to capture the magic of a record that's really popular, and that record was real popular.
Stayed 22 weeks on the charts.
Yeah, fortunately for me.
That made quite an impression on the country audience as far as Lee Greenwood was concerned.
It established my identity. although it took more records to show a more rounded, which you know, identity, which is what I was trying to tell you about the up-tempo of If Only for One Night. But It Turns Me Inside Out was a magic record that gave a sincere message to its listening audience, and I think people got used to that. They got used to hearing my voice in those low tones and that kind of soft vibrato that really was romantic and sincere.
Really good song back then. Name a few of the other songs that followed that.
Our second single was called Ring on Her Finger, Time on Her Hands, as I recall, and it was written by the same writers who wrote Dixie Road, and they wrote it at the same time, Marianne Kennedy, Pam Rose, and Don Goodman. And Dixie Road was not a hit until 5 years later, which is, it shows you that songs can take a long time getting popular and finding its way to an artist who will record it. And had I had Dixie Road early on in our first album or two, I think I would have been more satisfied with the eventual curve of giving the audience a more up-tempo career song rather than just a ballad career song such as IOU and She's Lying. And many of those tearjerkers like Going, Going, Gone that the same writer who wrote It Turns Me Inside Out wrote, Jan Crutchfield. 2
years later, you were winning awards.
Well, that's part of the business. If you don't win awards, you can't last. And awards are a special thing for people who need to meet the public and the public needs to meet them. Many of the times they're not fair. I mean, I saw other people in the industry who I admired greatly and wondered why they weren't getting an award instead of me. And now that I'm one of the seniors, you know, out of Nashville in the business, now I've been touring 8 years. I look back and I wonder now why we're still not considered for the same awards we won then. Basically what it is breaking new artists and getting the public to meet them once they've established themselves. And we did better than most. We won Male Vocalist 7 times in different award shows, not just the Country Music Association, but Music City News, the Academy of Country Music, Billboard Magazine, and so forth. And those are all avenues to reach a different audience. And so we're very grateful that we had won the awards.
First 3 LPs won gold.
That's
Greatest
exciting.
Hits won gold.
That's exciting because economically, it's a great help. But besides that, you don't really make a living on records in country music. You might be able to make a living on records on pop music or rock, but not in country. But it did establish the fact that we did sell records. We did have a very popular audience, and it's nice to talk about.
Sounds good. By the way, gold means 500,000 copies were sold.
500,000 albums, 1 million singles would be a million seller single.
Right.
But a million seller would indicate 500,000 units of an album or a CD, which represents an album.
You wrote another song that hit the big time. It's called God Bless the USA. That was made an awful big impression.
Yeah, it did. I was extremely pleased, and because that was a real song from the heart, and not the first one I'd written about America, but the one that was positive. And we struck a chord, we struck a nerve with it, and I felt that its initial popularity was thwarted a little bit by the commercialism of radio, and it's too bad because it never really reached #1, and only in the country field. It was like 5 or 6 or 7, something like that. The 4th of July of 1984, because I wrote it in '83. But being the writer and the singer, I was solicited then to sing it everywhere where the need was, whether it be Boy Scouts, the Optimist Club, for St. Jude's Cancer Research, my own charity, Cystic Fibrosis, which I've sang at many of their events. Naturally, commercial companies want to grab a hold of it, and we refused. We would not let anybody use the song. And then, of course, the president became involved,
I was just going to say that. You have 2 presidents then.
Yeah, initially it was Mr. Reagan that asked for the use of our song as an American spirit, and at that time I was not a member of the Republican Party. Since then, as a citizen, I did become so for the Bush campaign and joined pretty strongly into helping get Mr. Bush elected, which I'm proud I did because I think he's good for the country.
It's a song that's sung worldwide alongside the Star Spangled Banner and Irving Berlin's God Bless America song. Yeah,
I was just reading today, as a matter of fact, was that in USA Today? That there was some kind of petition that was raised on the Hill in Washington about making God Bless America the new United States song.
Star Spangled Banner?
Well, the Star Spangled Banner has been the anthem,
Right.
of course, for many years.
Right.
And I think, as I look at it, even though God Bless the USA and God Bless America and America the Beautiful and a few other songs stand beside the anthem in bringing the feeling of patriotism and pride to every citizen who lives here, I still think the Star Spangled Banner is the right song. It is. When you look at the anthems of other nations,
Right.
they have a military overtone. They all are very proud, but they are also, they're strong. They're powerful.
Right.
And I think that's what we need in the anthem when we represent our country like this. I mean, picture yourself at the Olympics, you know.
Right.
If you just won a gold medal and they play God Bless America instead of the national anthem,
Right.
it just wouldn't sound right. Wouldn't sound powerful enough.
Where is the most powerful place you've ever sung God Bless the USA? Well, like you said it.
Well, there's been a lot of emotional moments. We work for the USO.
That's I was getting to that next.
And that may be the most emotional place that we could possibly sing. It's for a military audience.
Right.
I've received the award from the AMVETS.
Can you pass me that paper up
From
there?
sure, of course, from the AMVETS, from the American Legion, and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And as I work for those organizations who have very proud military backgrounds, those are very moving nights and days. And so that, you know, those are the shows. I could probably cite you a dozen or so that have been so emotional. It's been difficult for me to finish the song.
That's so.
Oh yeah, particularly in the first 2 years.
When you go out on a USO tour, must be emotional, packed with the military out there, and you're singing this song.
The depth of emotion will depend upon whether or not there's a crisis at the moment, or there's something that might have went down that's extremely moving. Maybe a man was killed because his plane was shot down, or maybe there was just a soldier killed in action, and those are very moving moments. I think the word is not necessarily so deeply emotional, but proud.
Right.
The men and women who serve in their respective armed forces, who wear uniforms, want to know that we are proud of them. And when I sing God Bless USA and we talk about, you know, the veterans, that's the time they get proud.
That gets to the bottom, doesn't it? Are you going out on tour this Christmas?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we are. With Bob Hope stepping aside and not doing his tours now because it's not wartime, there is a little bit of a lag there. There's a lot of artists who tour for the USO each year. This year alone, Randy Travis is going, as we speak here at the time of this taping at Thanksgiving holidays, to the Mediterranean, where we have already been. Charlie Pride will be on tour. I think he's going to the Caribbean. And we'll assume the Bob Hope role at Christmas time. Going to Newfoundland, Greenland, Iceland for Christmas Eve, and Scotland at the naval base. And it's a very proud thing. You know, all of our guys enjoy it. I don't know that we will go each Christmas, but
How many have you gone so far?
well, we've been away from home every year since I started touring.
Wow. All with the USO tours?
We've
with military?
started USO military tours in 1984, although I started them when I was 17 years old, working for the USO in California and Alaska. So this is nothing new to me. It's just a lot more fun because I can have a lot more attention. You know?
Must make you feel proud to be an American when you're out there.
That's a good phrase. I like that. Maybe I can use that in a song.
Proud to be an American, yeah. Well, Lee, it's been a pleasure to be here.
Thanks.
Sitting next to Lee Greenwood, such a...
Thanks.
I was reading your paperwork and I said to myself, this is a fantastic man, you know? And played your music on the radio for a long time, and I just realized that you're such a fantastic person. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and thanks
a
again.
lot. Thank you.
Okay.